From our Toronto studios, this is the Muslim News on Muslim Network TV. Assalamu alaikum, I'm Aishah Ashraf. In our show today, Trump threatens death to Palestinians while Hamas dismisses his threats. Details of our top story are coming up later, so stay tuned. Meanwhile, Palestinian civil defense teams have recovered 30 more bodies from a mass grave near Kamal Adwan Hospital in Beit Lahya, northern Gaza. Authorities say 16 of the bodies remain unidentified. The Palestinian Ministry of Health is documenting details before reburial. This follows the discovery of 48 bodies in mass graves on Tuesday. The recovery is part of efforts to address Gaza's worsening humanitarian crisis. With Israel having severely damaged infrastructure and thousands of casualties reported, the challenges of providing for the living and honoring the dead remain immense. Since October 2023, Israel has killed more than 60,000 Palestinians, mostly women and children, in its genocide in Gaza. Over 111,000 people have been injured. The International Criminal Court has issued arrest warrants for Netanyahu and former Defense Minister Yoav Gallant for alleged war crimes in Gaza. Israel also stands accused of genocide case at the International Court of Justice. 7 Tesla charging stations were torched in Massachusetts, raising concerns over rising anger against the company's CEO and co-founder Elon Musk. The fires near Boston damaged several parked cars. Authorities suspect arson. In France, a similar incident saw a dozen cars burn near a Tesla dealership. No injuries were reported, but investigations are ongoing. The attacks come as Musk faces criticism for leading mass layoffs in the U.S. government under the Trump administration. As President Donald Trump's top donor, Musk heads a cost-cutting team that has overseen thousands of job cuts under the unofficial agency known as the Department of Government Efficiency. Tesla vehicles and facilities have been vandalized in the U.S. and Europe. A suspected arson attack also halted production at a Tesla plant in Germany. Musk, who is accused of making a Nazi salute at Trump's inauguration last month, continues to face domestic and global outrage. New York police have cleared Free-Palestine protesters from Barnard College's Milstein Library. Demonstrators led by Columbia Students for Justice in Palestine occupied the space, demanding reinstatement of expelled students and changes in disciplinary policies. The protests followed expulsions related to previous demonstrations. It comes on the heels of President Donald Trump's warning to colleges against allowing what he claimed are illegal protests, threatening to cut federal funding. A day earlier, protesters gathered outside Columbia University to oppose a speech by Israeli politician Naftali Bennett. The event was organized by Jewish student groups. The federal government has threatened to withdraw more than $50 million from Columbia, citing concerns over anti-Semitism. A federal task force will investigate anti-Semitism on 10 college campuses. Trump has issued an executive order that allows visa revocations for foreign students involved in such protests. The Justice Department has launched a civil rights investigation into the University of California over alleged anti-Semitism. The probe will determine if the university allowed a hostile work environment for Jewish employees, violating Title VII of the Civil Rights Act. Attorney General Pam Bondi has vowed to protect Jewish Americans and fight institutional anti-Semitism. The investigation follows pro-Palestine protests on U.S. campuses over Israel's genocide in Gaza, which has killed over 60,000 Palestinians, mostly women and children. The Education Department is also investigating anti-Semitism allegations at 5 universities, including Columbia and Berkeley, after similar protests. Trump threatens death to Palestinians, while Hamas dismisses his threats and demands Israel honor the ceasefire agreement. For the first time, the U.S. holds direct talks with Hamas. Stay tuned for details coming up next.
Assalamu alaikum. This is the largest refugee camp in the world. 1 million people are sitting here, doing nothing essentially, cannot study, cannot have a living, and world has to give them, feed them bit by bit, little bit of food. I find children, all skinny children around me, and they are wondering what's our future. Since I came from America, they're asking me this question, what's the future for us? Please, join Burma Task Force. It's a coalition of 38 organizations. Support Burma Task Force, join Justice for All. Let's change the future for 1 million people sitting here in the world's largest refugee camp for 7 years. Join now.
Welcome back. Hamas has dismissed President Donald Trump's latest threats in which he warned they were dead if they did not release all remaining Israeli prisoners. The group instead demanded Israel abide by the second phase of the ceasefire agreement. Trump on Wednesday issued what he called a last warning to Hamas, vowing there would be hell to pay if prisoners were not freed. He pledged full support to Israel, threatening that Hamas leaders would not be safe if they failed to comply. For the first time, the U.S. has held direct talks with Hamas. Previously, all negotiations were conducted through mediators such as Qatar and Egypt. This marks a significant shift in Washington's approach to Israel's genocide in the region, which has killed over 60,000 Palestinians. On his Truth Social platform, Trump wrote, "Release all hostages now or it is over for you." He also warned the people of Gaza, saying a beautiful future awaits, but not if you hold hostages. If you do, you are dead. Trump's post came following his meeting with 8 prisoners released from Gaza. The prisoners thanked Trump for bringing them home. The first 6-week phase of the agreement took effect in late January and ended midnight on Saturday. Israel has not agreed to move forward to the second phase of the deal to permanently end the war in Gaza. In Gaza's Deir al-Balah, Palestinians lined up for hot meals on the 5th day of Ramadan on Wednesday. A charitable foundation provided small food portions as Israel continued to block humanitarian aid into Gaza. Israel suspended aid entry after the first phase of a ceasefire deal ended Sunday. Israeli media reports suggest an escalation plan, including Israel cutting power to Palestinians, displacing them southward, as well as assassinations. A ceasefire and prisoner exchange agreement has been in place since January 19th. The deal halted Israel's genocide in Gaza that has killed over 60,000 people and caused widespread destruction, leaving the region in ruins. Indian External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar says officials are engaged in negotiations with the U.S. for a bilateral trade agreement that can address tariffs. In a pivotal speech addressing a joint session of Congress, President Donald Trump made a pointed reference to India. He underscored his administration's commitment to enforcing reciprocal tariffs on foreign imports. Trump's remarks highlighted the idea of what he calls fair trade, asserting that India and other nations have long imposed excessive tariffs on American goods, particularly automobiles. The U.S. has indicted 12 Chinese nationals for large-scale cyber attacks. Among them are 2 officers from China's Ministry of Public Security. They are accused of using the private firm Aishah as a front to hack government agencies, Asian governments, and critics of the Chinese Communist Party. Authorities say the hackers targeted the U.S. Treasury Department, stealing sensitive documents. 8 others linked to Aishah, including top executives, were also charged. The Justice Department says the Chinese government's security agencies paid those hackers for stolen data, creating a hacker-for-hire system. 2 other hackers were charged in a separate case for profit-driven cybercrimes. U.S. authorities seized domains linked to their activities. The suspects remain at large. The State Department has offered up $2 million in rewards for their capture. The Trump administration has suddenly removed a list of federal buildings marked for potential sale. As reported earlier this week, the General Services Administration, or GSA, posted the list on Tuesday. It named 443 properties, including agency headquarters and tax centers. By Wednesday, the list was taken down without explanation. The GSA admitted receiving an overwhelming amount of interest and promised a revised list soon. The original list included federal agency headquarters, major tax processing centers, and skyscrapers in cities such as Chicago, Atlanta, and Cleveland. Notably, the list also named the old post office in Washington, the historic building that once housed the Trump International Hotel. D.C. Mayor Muriel Bowser criticized the move, saying it lacked planning. The sale effort aligns with President Donald Trump's push to shrink the federal government. Led by Elon Musk, the downsizing initiative has seen 100,000 federal employees take buyouts or face layoffs so far. The UN World Food Programme will cut food rations for Rohingya refugees in Bangladesh by more than 50% due to a funding crisis. Starting April 1st, the monthly rations will drop from $12.50 to just $6 per person. Bangladeshi officials warned that this will have a devastating impact. More than 1.2 million Rohingya live in the coastal Bangladeshi city of Cox's Bazar. They rely entirely on aid as they are barred from working or leaving the camps. The cuts follow the recent shutdown of U.S. aid funding by the U.S., which covered 80% of WFP's assistance for Rohingya refugees. Officials fear the reduction will lead to hunger, malnutrition, and worsening mental health. UNHCR warns of increased insecurity and desperation in the camps. The WFP has appealed for $81 million in emergency aid. Meanwhile, Bangladesh's interim leader, Muhammad Yunus, urged the U.S. not to cut aid. UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres will visit Bangladesh from March 13th to 16th, aiming to draw global attention to the crisis. That's all from our Toronto studios. Thank you for watching Muslim News. We are a community channel dedicated to bringing you stories you can trust. Please like, share, and subscribe to our content. You can also comment to let us know what you think of our coverage. You can donate now by visiting muslimnetwork.tv/donate. For more content, keep watching Muslim Network TV. Salam.